The clans invade the inner sphere and seek to conquer every planet in their path. The inner sphere has inferior mechs and largely inferior pilots. If they have a single hope of defending themselves against the clans, it is in their much greater use of conventional vehicles. Tanks in this era are crucial for winning battles against the clans, and today we'll be covering the best tanks that the inner sphere had to offer to take on these deadly invaders. Mech warriors and tankers, welcome back to the Mech Lab. Let's get started with the Falcon Hover Tank. This is a no-frills design. We have decent armor on every facing, 16 on the turret, sides and rear, and 24 on the front, able to take some serious punishment. 914 hover movement is very strong, and having 5 internal structure means that this unit can take 2 clan large pulse lasers to any facing without being destroyed. A hefty armament of twin SRM-6 and 1 medium laser all in a turret means that this unit can inflict some serious punishment at close range. Perhaps its only weakness is its small amount of ammo, only 15 shots, meaning that it can fire for about 7 rounds before the bins run dry. However, if this unit has fired for 7 turns, it's definitely done its job against the deadly clan mechs that it will be facing. All of this wrapped up in a 50-ton, 676 battle value package makes the Falcon Hover Tank a very good close assault, fast unit with great scouting capabilities due to its speed, and even the ability to carry some supplies to the front lines. The classic Scimitar medium hover tank is a great design in the intro tech era, and it only gets better during the clan invasion, as this unit is meant to guide in friendly LRM fire, something that the inner sphere would specialize in this era. With heavy LRM tanks as well as mechs like the Archer and Longbow at their disposal, the inner sphere has the ability to deliver devastating firepower on any unit that has been tagged with a narc missile pod. The Scimitar is both reasonably fast with that 812 hover movement and extremely well armored, with 25 armor on the sides and turret, 20 on the rear, and 30 in the front. This unit can take a real beating before being disabled. Boasting 2 SRM-4s of its own, it is able to deliver a little bit of crit-seeking damage, and having both a narc and a tag, it's able to guide in LRM fire in 2 different ways. With a modest battle value cost of 582, this unit is incredibly good for its battle value at the simple job of hitting enemies with a narc and tag, while also dealing a little bit of damage at the same time, and just being extremely durable overall. Now, having all of this armor, it's most likely going to get immobilized before it dies, but that's totally fine. All the weapons are in a turret, so it can fire at things that are around it as long as they are relatively close. Another fantastic refit of a classic, we have the Pegasus Hover Tank 3058 upgrade. This is a late clan invasion design, a little bit less armored than the other offerings thus far. 20 armor on the front, 16 on the sides, and 18 on the turret. 10 on the rear means that if you get behind it, this unit can be disabled, but we've got everything that you could want from a scout. We have both an active probe to spot enemies and a Guardian ECM suite in order to jam them out. We have a medium pulse laser for hunting down enemy fast movers, a tag for guiding in LRM fire, and 2 SRM-6s in a turret, allowing it to lay down some serious pain, and all for 700 battle value. This is pretty reasonably costed. Yet another classic tank design, we have the Condor Heavy Hover Tank. This is the laser variant, boasting 4 ER medium lasers. These are the 4812 range weapons, as well as 3 SRM-2s with 2 tons of ammo, so these can bring some Infernos to deal with enemy elementals, and it has some great armor. For just under 1,000 battle value, this unit boasts a lot of firepower, some reasonable survivability, and decent mobility. 812 on a hover tank is pretty much what you'd expect as a baseline in this era. Technically available from 3052, it's mostly going to be available right at the end of the clan invasion era. If you're lucky enough to get one of these distributed to your tank lance, your crew will be in good hands. Next is the Fulcrum. I really love this unit. Extremely well armored. We have 27 on the sides, 40 on the turret, and 46 on the front, 20 on the rear. It can take massive punishment from any direction. 10-15 hover movement. This is extremely fast. This thing can keep up with a fire moth over open terrain, and it's got a great armament. We have an LRM-10 for long-range fire. We have a large laser for that medium-range engagement, and we have a medium laser for the up-close and personal work, covering the minimum range of that LRM-10. 12 rounds of fire, plentiful for a hover tank, and an ECM suite to jam out enemy Artemis and keep your vehicle lance off of enemy sensors. This is all enabled by its XL engine, which is not any detriment to vehicles. XL engines are just always a benefit to tanks, which makes me love XL engines and tanks quite a bit. Now, 1167 battle value is a little bit pricey, but you get what you pay for. This is a great skirmisher, has a tag to guide in LRM fire. Overall, going to be a really great heavy scout unit. Now, when we're talking about tanks, usually we're talking about like actual substantial combat vehicles, but I just had to mention the Death Trike. This is one of my favorite vehicles. It's super hilarious. It's literally just an ATV with a guy on it carrying an SRM launcher. So basically there's a guy with a bazooka driving around on an ATV, but the ATV is blisteringly fast. This thing can top out at 200 kilometers per hour and it only costs 26 battle value, so you can very easily afford to make this extremely high accuracy. Like 0 gunnery on this thing is going to cost virtually no battle value, and if you take a swarm of them, I mean, it's gonna take a little bit of doing to get rid of all of them, especially with that supercharger. You can very easily reach 5 PMM with this unit, which is absolutely disgusting, super hard to hit. So this is just kind of a meme pick, but it's definitely actually usable on tabletop. All right, let's get into some substantial vehicles. We've got the Myrmidon medium tank. It has great armor. We're talking 35 on the front and turret, 25 on the sides, 24 on the rear, 5/8 tracked movement. Pretty hard to immobilize this vehicle. A reasonable 815 battle value for something this tough. And we have 2 great weapons, a PPC for that mid to long range fighting, and the SRM-6 covers the close range, able to hole punch and crit seek. Overall, the Myrmidon medium tank is just a solid unit. If you need a tough little armor brick that has reasonable mobility, the Myrmidon is one of the best that you can get. But maybe you're looking for something that's really cheap. We have for you the Desert Scorpion light tank, 25 tonner, 554 battle value, very cheap, 5/8 tracked movement, still has great armor, 20 on everything except for the front, which has 32. It can take some serious punishment. We have a large laser to dish out some serious damage at medium range, and we have 2 machine guns, decent little extra damage that you can throw in once you get close. Case in the body means that through armor criticals into the magazine are not going to be as effective, meaning that this armor really means something. It's not just going to get tacked and exploded. The Desert Scorpion might just be the best cheap tank on this list. But maybe you're not looking for a little cheap tank. Maybe you want something a little more substantial. We have the Shrek XL. The Shrek PPC carrier, great tank in its own right, but the XL just makes everything better. We have better movement, 4/6 tracked vehicle, pretty hard to immobilize, and can actually get into position much more easily. 38 armor on the front is very substantial. 26 on the sides and 28 on the turret, real hard to chew through. Even on the rear, we have 20 armor, and 8 internals means that this thing can eat 2 clan ER PPCs and not go down on any location except for the rear. Triple PPC, just a super deadly weapon complement. You do not want to get within 12 hexes of this tank, especially if your opponent is taking them in pairs. 1074 battle value, pretty expensive, but not that much more than the original Shrek. So this is a straight upgrade to the original Shrek PPC carrier. If you're looking for a tank with a bunch of PPCs, this is probably the best that you're going to get. But what if we bring back some Star League era tech? We're looking at the Burke Defense Tank Royal variant now. 3/5 tracked movement, a little bit slow. 1105 battle value, quite reasonable. 42 armor on the front. This is an armored brick. 30 on the sides and turret, 20 on the rear, very hard to take down. Can take 2 Gauss rifles and not even go internal on most locations. And to back up the triple PPCs that we have on the Shrek, we have 2 front-mounted Streak SRM-2s to crit seek enemies. If I'm taking a tank with 3 PPCs, I'm probably taking the Shrek XL over this most of the time, just because I like that extra movement. But if you don't need to move very much, the Burke is definitely the better machine. Speaking of Royals, we've got the Von Luckner Royal. This is a crazy good tank. 3/5 tracked, a little bit slow, but 40 armor on every location except the rear, which is 31, and 45 on the turret. This is taking some serious punishment before going down. LRM-10, nice long-range punch. Twin LB-10X autocannons, great multi-purpose weapons. We can shoot down VTOLs, we can shoot at fast movers, we can try and tack enemies, or we've got that solid 10 damage punch at that PPC range. We have a small pulse laser in the turret to help us deal with infantry, and 4 Streak SRM-2s, all turret mounted. So most of the firepower here is 360, which is fantastic. We've got Artemis on that LRM-10, so it's gonna land more missiles more often. If you want a solid armor brick, the Von Luckner is definitely a very good one. Its 1261 battle value is pretty reasonable for what you get. Now those Royal tanks are pretty darn good, but if we're looking for a serious assault tank, then you should look no further than the Alicorn. The Mark III and Mark VI are my 2 favorite variants of this unit. The Mark VI because it has 3 Gauss rifles in a turret. That's just disgusting, deadly long-range firepower. This can sit in the back of your formation and blast away all day with those Gauss rifles, since it has plentiful ammo, and it's not easy to take down. 50 armor on the turret and front, 40 on the sides, 28 on the rear. Enemy scout units can definitely get on top of this and blow it up, but with nearly 30 internal structure and armor combined on the rear, it's still going to take 2 or 3 turns for them to do so. Meanwhile, it's laying down fire with those Gauss rifles on the enemy's bigger, slower targets. If you want a breakthrough tank, then the Mark III is crazy. We have 83 armor on the front. Are you kidding me? That's insane. 59 on the sides, 50 on the turret, 45 on the rear. No hits from any location are going to phase this tank. We have 3 AC-10s in the turret. Pretty short range, but that is why it has the title of Juggernaut. With this absolutely ludicrous amount of ammo, you can afford to replace everything with precision and absolutely annihilate light and medium clan forces. Now, 1432 is a little expensive on the Juggernaut, and 1850 for a sniper is pricey, but we're talking about a unit that can take a serious amount of punishment and has 3 Gauss rifles. This amount of firepower is not often found even on Inner Sphere assault mechs. Previously we covered the Partisan LRM, and I really love that unit, but there are great new versions of the Partisan in this era that we have access to. We've got the OG Partisan air defense tank, really solid armor, 35 on the front, 26 on the sides, 21 on the rear, 35 on the turret, very hard to bring down. Twin LB-10X autocannons, twin AC-2s, load this up with precision, suddenly you've got yourself one of the best anti-air assets in the game, with the ability to solidly punch with 10 damage hits from that LBX autocannon. But this is really meant to be a crit-seeking machine, and it's super reasonably priced, 923 battle value. That is so cheap. Then we have the Company Command variant, 2 C3 Masters. This is capable of linking together 2 entire lances of C3 units. Very rare to find this on any unit in the game, and it still has the majority of the firepower of the standard Partisan air defense tank with the same great armor. Really, the only downside to this unit is the ludicrous amount of ammo that it carries, which means that it's really over battle value costed. If they had just replaced most of this ammo with some extra armor or maybe a couple of close range defense weapons, it would have been much better. But at 920 battle value, you can't complain. Speaking of budget tanks, we also have the Manticore in this era. We have the LBX version, which I like quite a bit, and LB-10X autocannon is just always a solid weapon to have. This is backed up by a medium pulse laser and a Streak 6. 4-6 tracked movement, it's a little bit slow, but that's acceptable. We have great armor, 43 on the front, 42 on the turret, 34 on the sides, 26 in the rear. Very hard to take this down from any direction, and it has both decent hole punching and crit seeking capability. I really like the LBX version of the Manticore. I think it's one of the better main battle tanks in the era, and then we can compare it to the 3055 upgrade. Instead of one mid-range weapon and a couple of close-range weapons, this vehicle more so goes for lots of close-range firepower with a Streak SRM-2 large pulse laser and SRM-6, and backs that up with a little bit of long-range fire with the LRM-10. Artemis on both of the missile launchers is fantastic, and a large pulse laser is just a great general weapon to have if you're planning to close into close range with this unit, which you should, because it wants to be sharing that armor with the team. That is going to be one of its main selling selling features is the fact that it has so much armor and can deal decent damage once it gets in close. But if you're instead looking for something that just has good long-range firepower rather than a generalist medium tank, I'm going to recommend probably the Hunter Light Support tank. We have 2 LRM-15s with Artemis, 8 rounds of fire total, probably a little bit insufficient, but decent armor, 15 on the sides, 14 on the rear, 27 on the front. It can take a bit of a beating before going down. 4-6 track movement is reasonably okay, and for 641 battle value, you're going to get some decent value out of this. The Hunter Light Support LRM-15 variant is a little bit of a different beast. We've got the LRM-15 for that long-range punch. We've got more armor so that it can take a bit more of a beating. We have more ammo, no Artemis for this unit, but we can fire for 16 rounds, which is plentiful for a light tank like this. And we have some machine guns and a flamer to cover sides and rear if the enemy tries to get close and kick this unit. If you're looking for a cheap tank on a budget with some good long-range support fire, the Hunter might be it. Alright, I think I've entertained the treadheads enough. Let's look at some more great hover vehicles. The J. Edgar also has some great refits in this era. I'm a particularly big fan of the J. Edgar Corrida. 3 medium lasers and a small laser in a turret, no frills, 11-17 movement, really solid, very fast, 31 armor on the front, 24 on the turret, 20 on the sides. This thing can take a beating, it's got great movement, it's got great firepower. There's nothing not to love here, other than maybe the 696 battle value cost. It's a little bit expensive, almost 700 battle value. If you want something a little bit cheaper to maybe guide in some LRM fire and fill more of a scout role with its active beagle probe, the J. Edgar Tag variant is maybe the vehicle that you want. 2 medium lasers, about half the firepower of the Corrida variant, but it's got some utility mixed in and costs about 130 less battle value, which is pretty significant. Then we've got the Lightning. This is a really interesting tank. Now, I prefer to have things in a turret if possible, but the Lightning is pretty interesting because it has 2 medium pulse lasers mounted in the front, and the lack of a turret allows it to spread out its rather paltry amount of armor much more effectively. We've got 10 on the rear, 16 on the sides, and 20 on the front. So it can take a couple shots before dying, and its modest battle value price of 510 is quite nice. It has a couple of SRM-4 one-shots, which are very low on battle value, which is kind of nice, but they're mounted in the sides. I'd prefer to have them mounted in the front, but I guess this isn't the worst thing in the world. If enemies get beside you, you can fire at them as a secondary target, I suppose. Really, you want to be using that great movement to get in close, use those medium pulse lasers, and blow up some enemy mechs, preferably in their rear arc. Our next unit simply has too many variants to fit on the same screen, so we'll be going over the Prime through D of the Bandit hovercraft first. The Bandit is a very interesting unit. It's technically not an Omni, but uses Omni technology for its weaponry. You'll see that they have the modular weapon quirk, allowing the weapons to be swapped out much more easily. They all also have 4 tons of troop capacity, which is significant because that means that it can carry a unit of battle armor inside of it, since the Inner Sphere uses battle armor in 4-man units. With 42 armor on the front, 40 on the sides, and 32 on the rear, it's quite well armored. However, this unit does have a big weakness. It has a weak turret. 22 armor on the turret, when it has so much armor on every other location, is completely insufficient. So that's my one big gripe against the Bandit, is its insufficient turret armor. De-armor the rear and the sides a little bit, get that turret up to 30 armor, and then we'll talk about this being the best hover tank around. But for what you get, it's still pretty good. We have 2 SRM-2s and a machine gun in the front for the Prime variant, and 3 medium lasers in the turret. This makes great use of the Fusion Engine's 10 heat sinks, and has a modest 929 battle value. With 914 hover movement, that is pretty solid. This is going to be able to deliver some troops to the front lines, and then follow up with some good firepower. The A variant approaches things a little bit differently. This is going to want to drop off its troop complement, and then skirmish around the battlefield using its long-range PPC. And then, if it gets an opportunity, it'll get into range 6 to really hit with that PPC against enemy units. The B variant focuses exclusively on SRMs. An SRM-2 in the front, SRM-4s in the turret, 2 tons of ammo. This is probably one of my least favorite variants, however, it is very cheap at 753 battle value. The twin SRM-6 of the Bandit C is at least both turret mounted, but it does have an ammo issue. Only 15 shots, meaning that this will run dry after 7 rounds, and it is definitely very reliant on getting up close and personal without the punch that the Prime offers. And the D variant takes a completely different approach from everything else, other than maybe the A. We have 3 LRM-5s in the turret, just a little bit of long-range plinking, so this is again a skirmisher. The impact that 3 LRM-5s is going to have is a lot less than a PPC in my opinion, so I'd probably go with the A over the D if you have the extra 80 battle value. Then we've got the E, F, G, and H. The E is interesting because it has a little bit of something for both ranges. We have an LRM-10 for that long range, and then a front-mounted medium laser for the close range, and a nice price of 839 battle value. This is definitely a very good flexible skirmisher unit. I like this one quite a bit. The F has a very nice large laser as well as a medium laser, so this is overall going to do more damage than the PPC, but is a little bit more limited in its range. Not that big of a deal when you are a 914 unit, and reasonable 887 battle value. I like the F quite a bit. Then we have the G, which is basically all about those small lasers. We have 6 small lasers in the front, 2 medium lasers in the turret. This is going to drive up right behind enemies and just rip their back armor off. Out of all of the variants, I think that the G is the best. The sheer amount of damage that it can put out with all of those small lasers is absolutely terrifying. Then we have the H variant, which ditches some of the weaponry in favor of carrying more troops. This could be very useful if you want to drop a bunch of battle armor off with one vehicle. 708 battle value is also very reasonably priced, so if you just want a fast objective runner that's going to drop off some battle armor and then have a little bit of punch with its weapons, the H is not a bad choice. Alright, let's round things out with a very good budget transport tank. The Badger is a great unit, very cheap, sitting somewhere between 400 and 600 battle value with every variant. 6-9 tracked movement makes it fairly flexible. Gonna take those motive crits a little bit less hard, although it definitely has far too little armor. 18 on the sides, 20 on the front, and 14 on the rear means that this is gonna get taken out pretty quickly, but with the ability to maintain 3 TMM, it's got some decent chops, and the Prime variant has some good close range firepower as well. SRM2 in the front, we got 3 medium lasers. I would probably just take smoke with this, honestly. Use the unit to make some nice smoke clouds for your more important units to hide in. The A variant, on the other hand, you're definitely going to need some kind of offensive ammo in here, whether it's Infernos or Standard, because 4 SRM2s is a little bit too much battle value to pay to not deal any damage or do any effects to enemy units. Although 4 smoke clouds is definitely pretty powerful. And this unit is really cheap if you just want to use it purely as a smoke machine. The Badger B is pretty much just worse at the Badger A's job, so I probably would not take the Badger B unless you really need that extra 6 battle value for some reason. The C takes an opposite approach to everything else, carrying 2 LRM-5s. Going for that long range damage, it drops off its troops and then it drives away to safety to pelt things with weak LRMs at long range. And the D variant, probably one of my favorites again. It ditches the SRM-2s in favor of some small lasers so that it can deal some extra damage at close range. Again, triple medium laser in the turret, really substantial, and this does cost a little bit less battle value than the Prime variant by 9. Not the biggest deal, but a nice little discount. Then we've got the last 2 variants. We've got the E, which is, I think, among my favorite out of all of them. Extremely cheap at 434 battle value, and it just carries nothing but small lasers. The problem with this unit is that it doesn't really have the armor to just drive right up into point blank of enemy units. It's just going to get kicked and destroyed. And the small lasers also aren't all able to point in a single direction. They're front, side, and rear mounted, though most of them are in the turret, thankfully. So if you're going to take a transport, the E is okay at what it does. And finally, we've got the F, which carries 8 tons instead of 4, like all of its other cousins, but it definitely gives up a lot on the firepower front. We've only got an ER medium laser in the turret. That's really weak firepower for a tank. However, at only 400 battle value, it is very cheap. Are there any tanks that I missed for the Inner Sphere during the clan invasion? Let me know in the comments. Remember to like, share, subscribe. Really helps out the channel a lot. Thank you everyone for continuing to share the content. Stay safe out there, tankers, and have a great day.